Good afternoon, traders. Russell Sandyford here for easyMarkets, your London market outlook. Well, last night was certainly a story of the commodities rocking the trading boat in a big way, with gold getting a very big offer earlier this week, but finding a little bit of support. It does look on tenterhooks here around 1263. This, for mine, is really reflecting that US dollar positioning that we're seeing in the market. For a little while, we've had some lack of correlation, for example, in dollar yen and the Nikkei, but not so yesterday. The Nikkei got crunched yesterday in the Asian session, of course, really falling out of bed, and as sometimes you can expect, it has recovered and basically filled that gap. Now, I put that 4-hour Nikkei chart on screen for obvious reasons, because as we jump into dollar yen back to 112.40, it looks extremely similar. So after getting nibbled at and drifting down as low as 112 yesterday, looking very unhealthy, dollar yen staged a reasonable comeback around that 12.5. Now, the interim non-farm payroll data we saw overnight in the US session was probably the most important thing. Basically, we're set for about 200,000 in terms of that non-farm payroll headline number, which of course hits us the start of the US session on Friday. Now, the average hourly earnings for the US were not to be underestimated, is tipped to be good. The unemployment is supposed to hold at 4.1, but there are a lot of banks throwing out speculation that the unemployment for the US may in fact tick lower to 4%. If either of those two metrics are good, as in strong, and the non-farms headline number there on Friday is around 195-ish, we should see some dollar buying. I don't think I'd be racing in to sell gold. I think there are better ways to play this out. Dollar yen's probably the most obvious because it can regain that 113 level pretty quickly. We've seen that many times in the past. Now, the other big mover, of course, in case you were asleep, was dollar CAD. Dollar CAD was one that I did highlight here on the chart on Tuesday. You may recall I did point out that 126.60 is a very key support. It did hold only just. 1 minute we're at 127 and looking like getting some wobbly price action, but then it just slammed up to 128 because the Bank of Canada obviously held interest rates, but they were very cautious in their outlook. That can really play out more. I don't think their cautious tone has fully been priced in on the chart you're staring at, which is obviously your 4-hour dollar CAD. So look for this pair, the dollar CAD, to be one of the best ways to play the dollar strength that I'm suggesting will hit the market tomorrow. Now, we do have jobless claims for the US tonight. There's nothing else on the event or risk calendar apart from that, so that won't get the heart rate racing too much. But again, this guy here is a good one if you're lazy to be positioned for a run-up potentially towards that 130 level again. That is two big figures away, so don't get too ambitious, but I think we will see dollar CAD bid higher again. Now, the Aussie slide is accelerating a little bit. We're not getting ridiculous daily trading ranges on the Aussie dollar at the moment, but look, the trade balance today, that data was not supportive for the Aussie. For mine, the swap differential is absolutely not fully priced in at all between the US 2-year yields and the Aussie 2-year yields, which for the first time since 2000, so the first time in 16, 17 years, that has finally flipped back to negative in favor of the US. Now, what does that mean in English? If you're not an advanced trader, it means the Aussie can definitely see lower lows, can certainly look to punch through 75 if that headline US jobs data is healthy for the US dollar on Friday. So guys, this is another one. If you're lazy, I'd be getting in here short at 75.5 on the Aussie. There's no point mucking around on the crosses. I think the Aussie itself will be lucky if it's at 75 by year end. I think we're more so looking for a level around that 74.50 fair value. 74.50 looks like definitely the next stop from here. The cable is still in a very big wait and see holding pattern with the free movement of citizens between the UK and Ireland, and that Brexit part of the negotiation still rolling on. And for that reason, we're seeing 133.80 being a pretty boring price action area for sterling. This trade is not done. The Brexit story was way oversold and it can snap back. So keep your eye again on those sterling yen, sterling Aussie, and even just the sterling against the greenback to play that out perhaps next week. Talking of next week, Bitcoin is going to be in focus next week as the first round of futures products commence on Monday. Now, we were very accurate on this guide to talk about that tentative price action leading up to 13,000. We said, sorry, 12,000. We said it would be tentative, but when it broke 12, it would go to 13. Now, that is obviously done and dusted, and all of a sudden we're at 14,000 this morning. Now, I don't say that to be clever. All I'm saying is to highlight that pattern that we did see at some key psychological levels, that tentative price action that we saw around 10,000. Now, what happened after that was a slide through to 11.5 and then a big pullback. So, yes, I am definitely calling a big pullback, potentially on the weekend, so be very careful there. Or even next week once the futures market and the institutional money starts whacking around this Bitcoin price. But look, for now, it's happy enough at 14,000. I think it will get to the psychological 15,000 and then fall out of bed. So for those of you trading on both sides of this pair, just remember we have no restrictions on your buying or selling. A lot of other brokers cannot boast the same trading conditions, and we have guaranteed stops in case it does get wild. So if you need more info or don't understand fully the trading conditions, by all means reach out to us here at the EasyMarkets dealing desk, and we're always here to help, no matter if you trade indices, commodities, FX, or the runaway train known as Bitcoin.